wants to be king!
Recently, I've gotten several questions pertaining to Andrew Tate's conversion to Islam, basically asking what my opinion was. And I've avoided touching this subject because basically I feel that another man's spiritual walk is none of our business. But as I watch the bread and circuses that are being unfolded by this demonic regime that has taken over the planet, it seems, I find myself looking at the so-called leaders. I question where the men are. I've spoken that several different times. And over the past couple of months, there's been several different things that have made me look at Islam in particular, and specifically the men who represent that religion. And I have nothing but admiration for what those men stand for. Just recently, the world is blown up because of this Balenciaga, the latest campaign, which is basically the demons putting their agenda right out forefront for all the wealthy to celebrate this madness, this sickness. And this stuff, because the way our society is geared, the rich and famous spend money on this overpriced bullshit, and then the little slaves, the broke people, spend their last money trying to look like the rich and famous. And it's very clear to me now why my grandmother used to bang the necessity of the people that you associate with, and how we were to walk in this world but not be of this world. You know, right now, with the divisiveness and everything that's going on in our country, really around the world, but I'm specifically talking about the destruction of America, a once Christian nation, a nation where the powers that be knew better than to try to come here and fuck with us because we were Americans. And the things that made us strong was family, religion, and love of country. And that's what made the men sacrifice themselves, and the women too, sacrifice their children to these endless conflicts that have really proven to be just the rulers dominating and using us mere servants, as serfs, as cannon fodder. And that's the way that it's always been. I assume that's the way it'll always be. But when you look at this nation today, with all of the Rainbow Coalition, the forcing of this agenda down everybody's throat, now the attacking of the children, I have to ask, where are the men? Where are the men? In particular, where are the Christian men? And I've got a lot of friends that are in my immediate circle, and they all go to different churches. They're all Christians. And we all share a similar mindset, but we're different men. These men have children. A lot of them have little girls in school. And they're very passive in dealing with the intrusiveness of all of this poison, this toxicity that's being pressed into our children's minds to get them to hate our country, to hate themselves and one another. But one of the biggest things that my problem is when I'm invited to come attend these services is I don't look to my prayer life and the people that I share my spiritual circle with. I don't seek to feel good. I don't want to go to a church and get gassed up and told that everything's all right and that I should be more accepting of things that are unacceptable, and to make God in my own image, which is what we seem to have done in the West. We have an epidemic of cowardly men, and the boys are now turning into girls with sperm counts, testosterone levels, all of these things plummeting. So what's going on, to a certain extent, it's forgivable because the powers that be are destroying men from all angles. The men in this country have become very cowardly, and that's why this country has fallen apart. We have allowed weak men and women to beat us into submission to where we accept things that are abominations. Now we're legislating things that should not be condoned. It should not be celebrated. It's not natural. It's not right. And it's just more of the dark ugliness that the West, the rulers of the West, they've always injected this. This is the recipe to destroy an empire. And the Christian men who boldly talk about their nationalism and their pride in this nation, which is silly in itself because we were merely born here. We were lucky enough to be born here. But these people that are so proud with the way that they feel, they sit on their hands and they allow themselves to be silenced and beaten into submission in the name of equity and inclusion. We take away all merit. We take away all reason to fight. We take away everything that it is to be human and call that progression. One of the things that was most telling to me about where we are as a nation and what it means to believe in Islam, to be a Muslim, it was demonstrated in Dearborn, Michigan a couple of months ago when they had a school board meeting and all of these Fruit Loops and weirdos showed up because they feel somehow it's their right to indoctrinate the rest of the kids who come from normal families into reading this stuff that even adults shouldn't be exposed to. One of the most telling differences in this conference was there was a big population of Muslims in this town, in this community. And unlike America, where Americanized men, where you have one or two get up and feebly speak their case, the men from Islam showed up. And the way that these men stood, the way that these men spoke, what these men believe in was way different than the pacifist that has become Western Christianity. So in dealing with the question about why or what I feel about Andrew Tate converting to Islam, I don't blame him. I don't blame him for the conversion, because when you read the Quran and you actually talk to people who believe in Islam that are Muslims, not the ones that we're indoctrinated to think are down to destroy everything that we are, they're truly peaceful people. And in truth, I've learned more about Jesus Christ from Muslims, from people who followed Islam, than I have any of the preachers or the gospel charlatans that have affected my life. But one of the things that I think is more important is the fact that people who follow Islam believe in God. They believe in God's word. They hold that in first and last regard. And they truly give praise and credit to Allah for everything that happens in their life, even death. When you look at Western men, Western Christianity that has come through the Roman Catholic Church and been paganized, what would those men fight and die for? What do those men believe in? what do those men stand for? It's most definitely not God. It's not God's word. It's not God's children. It's not anything that I can see. That's why Andrew Tate, I believe, converted to Islam, because Islam is a faith that reveres and fears God. But more than anything else, Islam is where men are men and they stand for what they believe is right. Christians in the West would do well to take a page out of that book.